I'm Kate Hutchison, also known on Instagram as Bookish Kate NYC, and we're going to try something new, play around with this IGTV, and this is going to be the first episode of something I like to call Shelf Conscious, which is basically a bookish talk show. So, the first episode, I wanted to kick off with one of my favorite books of the last year, and quite frankly, one of my favorite books of all time. It was a book that I read. It's called Less by Andrew Sean Greer. And you know those books that you almost don't want to underline because there's too much underlining, that I found myself after the first page, I'm like, I don't have to underline because I know I'll read this again. That's how I felt about this book. So I wanted to kick off Shelf Conscious with a interview with one of the people that went into marketing the paperback edition after it won the Pulitzer. It is an addiction.
Reading the book is an addiction.
Wait, before we even get to the book, let me introduce, this is Ira Boudah, and
Hi.
We're going to talk about, your role in marketing the book and your role at Little Brown. Again, sorry, not again because I didn't mention this before, but Less is published by Little Brown, which is an imprint at Hachette. So without further ado.
I was the lead publisher of the paper, not publisher, holy shoot. I was the lead marketer of the paperback.
Good save, by the way.
Yeah.
I like this.
I'm the publisher of Little Brown. Hi.
Yes.
I've got big ambitions. No, I'm just kidding. I was the lead marketer on the paperback for Less. But when I first started working at Little Brown, a little ways into my career as a marketing assistant, we had galleys of Less in the office, and there was a famous picture that was taken of me. I was asked to sit under my desk and read a book, and I was currently reading The Galley of Less, which I fell in love with, and I begged the marketer at the time to let me kind of be in on that campaign. So yeah, I've loved this book since it first got acquired by us, and yeah, it's been great to work on it.
One of the things that came up while we were talking and prepping for this segment, which took some dedication, we prepared for this.
Even though it doesn't seem like it, because I said I was the publisher. So cool.
We prepared for that too. All of this is scripted. No, just kidding. But one of the things that came up was how the story of your role changing alongside the life of Less. And that, can you speak a little bit to that, where you started in publishing, give a little snapshot of your career in publishing, and then from that lead to what happened to your role during the course of Less's life?
I interned at Little Brown way back in the day in 2013 and 2014 while I was in college, and I was first in the advertising and promo department, which now does not exist because each department has their own team that works with outside ad agencies and marketing and social media. But at the time we had one central department, and so I was working with them, and then I came back the following summer and I worked with Little Brown Marketing and Publicity, and I got to know some of the people who are still working here, like our ad promo director Brandon, and obviously our publisher Reagan, and a few other faces. But yeah, and then I worked in publicity elsewhere for 9 months when I first got out of college. Very grateful for that job, but it didn't end up being the right fit, a publicity, and also the material that we were working with just didn't really work as well as Little Brown had. And so when I came back here, they remembered me, and I feel really lucky for that. And so I was a marketing assistant, and then Less got acquired. I fell in love with it. I worked with the marketer Pam to make that campaign great. She made it great, and at the time, so for a hardcover, more literary book, it's all about getting reviews and publicity, and it's all about getting early reads from consumers and reviews from booksellers. And we love this book. It was a house favorite, but I don't think any of us knew it was coming. And so by the time I got assigned to the paperback, I was just looking back at my email, and it was we were talking about it like that March, and all of a sudden that April, it won the prize like 2 months before it was supposed to come out in paperback, and we're all like emailing frantically and be like, Andy, oh my god, because like Andrew Sean Greer is like a really amazing person. Mm-hmm. He's a fabulous author. He wrote a bunch of other beautiful books, and his joke is like he's only big in Italy, but not anymore, Andy.
Definitely not anymore.
Yeah.
The amount of comments I got from posting on Less, I think, was a record for me. So many people loved this book.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to hear that Andy's a nice guy, because you
wonderful.
Always hope that about books that you love.
Yeah, and we work with a lot of different personalities in terms of authors, and we won't name any names, but some people are, difficult, and some people are like smooth to work with, but you don't really, have a like hyper friendly rapport with them. But Andy was just like a dream, like very funny. Like now, whenever we announce like a reprint to him, he'll send us like, we'll say, your book is a hot title, we just reprinted the hardcover, the paperback, and he'll send like hot title in like a weird heavy metal font, like, but it's like a different font every week. And so he's very fun, but also like he worked really hard, and he did all these great videos for me. But yeah, he's a dream to work with, and just a really good person. So that was also really great. When he won the prize, we were all just like, it's so good to see someone who made great work and is also a good human to win an award like this.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And because this is a beloved book of mine now, it's great to know that he's a great person too. And before we get talking more about the book, you mentioned that you started as an intern at Little Brown.
Yes.
And a lot of people are curious about how to break into publishing. Quite honestly, this is something that I definitely take for granted, the mystery behind it, because in New York, a lot of people work in publishing, and you never hear the origin story. Because the assumption is it's similar to everyone. You intern, or you do the Columbia Publishing course, or in some situations, it's truly who you know, whether it be nepotism or someone you met networking and hustling. It's who you know. So
totally.
How did you end up getting that internship?
Oh, I got really lucky. So I was an English major in school, and so I had a bit of the cred as a student at the time. But the way that I actually got it, I would say, is I had been working a summer job, actually in a restaurant, and the chef there was very close friends with one of the marketing directors at the time, who was then friends with the ad promo department. And so I sent
this is the best story.
It's wild, yeah,
it's
because
such a good story.
At the time I was like,
You're reminding me of like Stephanie
so
Dandler from Sweetbitter, where it's
Yeah.
just like this didn't happen, but anytime there's a chef and a book involved, I'm like, oh, Sweetbitter.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah. So my life is Sweetbitter. No, I'm just kidding.
Although, also, if you've read Sweetbitter, by no means am I comparing this to Sweetbitter, but also if you haven't read Sweetbitter, read it. It's really good. It's really good. And Stephanie Dandler has a fantastic Instagram. So if you don't follow her, follow her. She also is a reader. So really good books to discover there. So anyways, going back to this chef.
Oh my God, yeah. And at the time I was like, this seems like really far-fetched.
Like your fairy godmother
Yeah,
chef.
like there's no way, this is gonna really make a difference, because it's not directly related to publishing. But just the fact that this person was able to get my resume directly to somebody in the department. And I don't want to like tell this story and make people watching think that like you're not going to be able to make it in if you don't have a weird connection like this. It helps, but I feel like I got really lucky in this way. But I was able to kind of have that little in and bypass HR a little bit, because the story goes that people get nervous that their resume and their cover letter are going to get trapped in a pile of stuff and like get lost, And yeah, and the same thing happened when I came back to Little Brown, was that I contacted somebody directly who I had worked with before. And yeah, so if you know anybody that you met at an event or that knows someone you know, don't be afraid and reach out. Like that'll help your name get known and help you bypass all that bureaucratic stuff.
I'm gonna sound like a nerd right now, but if you can't be a nerd on something, Bookstagram, like where can you nerd out? Don't underestimate LinkedIn. There's no downside in shooting a quick message. If they don't respond, they don't respond. You can't take it personally, and I know there's a lot of fear of what if they don't respond,
or they're not gonna like put a black mark next to your name.
Yes, exactly.
Forever.
No, never.
They'll probably be really impressed that you reached out.
I completely agree. So yes, I agree, where it's just not even who you know, but just introducing yourself and making that. And also just internships are so important. They are a luxury and a privilege to be able to do internships, but if you can score an internship, great. And if not, informal coffee with someone. Just say, hey, I would love to get to know you more. People love talking about themselves, obviously. So great to know how you got a foot in the door. And could you just describe what an average day is like for you?
Yeah. Well, as we say in publishing, there's no such thing as an average day. But let's see. Where should I start? Should I start like a morning routine, or should I start like when I get into the office?
Let's start with when you get in the office.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. Yeah, so our day starts at 9 or 8:30 in the summer, because we have summer Fridays, which means we start work a little bit earlier or stay a little later depending on what department it is, and then you get half days on Fridays, which is great publishing perks. But anyway, I start at 9. I get in. I'm one of those people who will probably eat breakfast at their desk just because I'm not really hungry when I first get up, but I have breakfast. I kind of go through my inbox, and then I usually have like a handy dandy to-do list, and I start working on checking in with authors about their campaigns and like letting them know if there's any feedback we've gotten from consumers, or if there's anything that launched during the week, or like how an ad is doing. Working on building like a list. Like right now I'm working on an outreach list for a book called Real Queer America, and it's like a list of organizations from the book, and then just going on the internet and looking for like LGBTQ advocacy organizations. And so in the morning, and usually I'll have meetings more in the afternoon, and we'll have, or on Thursdays, like we have like a big department meeting with sales where we talk about kind of the status of titles coming out in a couple of months, and what more we can do to get them into bookstores and create buzz around a title. And then you had mentioned people were interested to know what a lunch break looks like.
Oh, yes. So when we were preparing for this, again, going back to the ardent preparation that went into this.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people talk about morning rituals, but in jobs, it's always fascinating to also hear about a lunch break, because that says so much about a person. So tell me, what is your average lunch break like?
My average lunch break is, I try to bring lunch from home as much as possible, but lately I've been going out and getting some sushi, and then we have like a cafe area, sitting down, and lately at lunch I have been doing Duolingo.
What is it?
Duolingo?
What is that?
It's like an app that you can learn a language on. And it's free, and I've been recommending it to everybody almost as much as I've been recommending less. But I'm learning Korean right now.
That is so fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you been to Korea?
No, I haven't, but my boyfriend's family, like his grandma only speaks Korean, and so like when I met her and we were like kind of doing like a lot of this, I was like, I'm gonna learn to like say some stuff to her, and so that's what I've been doing for lunch. And it's really, like, it really pulls me back. And sometimes I'll, like, go out and go for a walk. Like, we work near Rockefeller Center, so it's really crowded, so it's nice to just kind of, like, walk away from that for a bit and get my body moving, and then I come back and get back in the swing of things. But
it sounds to me like taking that break is such a good recharge, especially if you have meetings in the afternoon.
Oh yeah.
I do something similar with my lunch break. My New Year's resolution has been not to have lunch at my desk, because no matter what, it's going to be sad. No matter what. And I don't bring my lunch to work, because if anyone's following my feed, I'm trying to cook, but leftovers have bringing Tupperware with me. Just, I carry enough with me.
Yeah.
So
Tupperware is heavy.
Yes, and it's, if I'm spending a shameful amount on lunch and eating it at my desk, I'm not enjoying it. No. So I've been reading at lunch.
Yeah, like a lot of our coworkers do that too, and I was doing that for a little while with Real Core America when I was reading it. But so what have you been reading lately?
Great segue. Clearly you've done this before. And Ira has. They do a ton of stuff on Facebook Live, and Little Brown has done so many interviews that people probably recognize you.
Maybe. That's something I didn't think about. But yeah, I've been doing these Little Brown Live segments.
Well, now they will.
With our producer for today, who is behind the camera, Lauren Hessa. Shout out to her. But yeah, you probably know her better as like the face and voice of Little Brown Live. But I'm just there to hold books up and be Vanna White,
as we're doing with this one.
Yeah, exactly.
So a little bit about Les. If you want to give a very quick synopsis.
Yes. So Les is not that depressing stereotype of a Pulitzer winner. Not that I want to slam Pulitzer winners, but it's a really funny. I guess maybe I'll describe it in terms of my reaction. Like, it seems light, but it sneaks up on you and is really affecting and beautiful. But it's about a middle-aged man who is on the cusp of turning 50, and he gets a wedding invitation to his like ex-boyfriend / kind of lifelong love's wedding to somebody else, and he's also an author, and but sort of a mid-list author, and doesn't feel super accomplished about what he's done. Anyway, he gets this wedding invitation. He goes, screw this, like, this is going to be really sad for me, I'm not going to go, and decides instead to accept all these other invitations to international literary events that he's been invited to because he's bigger abroad than he is in the States, and just goes on this kind of soul-searching romp around the world, and like hilarity ensues, but also there are a lot of really beautiful and gentle reflections on aging and love, and I guess finding yourself when you feel like your life is stagnating or you're having a minor crisis. And it has a beautifully happy ending. And Kate was saying that she cried.
I cried. Yeah. So just to give you a sense of the impression this book made on me, I was reading it. I had no idea really what it was about. I don't like knowing too much about a book before I read it.
That makes sense.
I read it while traveling around a big birthday. Wow. I was turning, this was very recent, I turned the age that my mom was when she had me.
Whoa.
So it definitely was on my mind. It was a big birthday. I'm reading it while traveling and also around New Year's. So just lots of, I couldn't have picked a better time to read this. So not only did I bawl at the end and a couple, during, but one attribute of this book that comes up pretty early on is the color of the suit that Arthur Less wears, and it's called Lessian Blue. And while I was traveling, one day we went on a bike ride and we saw a bluebird that was the exact same color.
Oh my gosh.
And on that bike ride, I kid you not, this again, if you can't nerd out on Bookstagram, where can you? I started bawling.
Oh my gosh.
Now, emotions were already high because me on a bike is a very near-death experience. I just started bawling because it reminded me of this book, and I had finished the book at the time. And also, too, I read this while traveling, so I brought 2 other books with me that just were not good follow-ups.
Oh, I see.
I knew to myself, so I ended up rereading The Secret History, which I just finished last night, and it was the perfect complement to this. Because I wanted to read something that I knew I loved, but couldn't for the life of me remember the end. If you haven't read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, I don't want to say stop what you're doing now, obviously, because we're still talking.
So I have to now. Yeah.
But literally, do not stop what you're doing now because you're at work.
Yeah.
But okay, read it and
okay.
Know what you
I will. No, I've been looking for like a new book to read. I just finished something that like I really liked and so good.
So what did you finish that you really liked?
Oh, I just finished and we talked about it in Little Brown Live, but I it's one of those books that I finished and I was like, I need to take like a break for a bit because it was so amazing. It was a collection of short stories. You know the movie Arrival?
Yes.
It's the
with Amy Adams, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a collection of short stories that contains a story that movie was based on.
Ooh.
So it's these like really like cinematic, like pretty cerebral, like sci-fi short stories by Ted Chiang. And I got to the end of it and I realized that like a story that had been like pivotal to like my college experience that I had read like in a class was at the end of that book. And like I like reread it and I was like, this is so much, like I'm so full, and I've been looking for new books to read since. So The Secret History.
I don't know if it would be the perfect follow-up to that, but it depends what sort of mood you're in. But The Secret History, going from sci-fi to something that deals a lot with the Greek language and classics.
Well, there's a lot of stories about language. Like
yes, I was going to ask you about that because you're learning Korean.
Yeah. And
Arrival has a lot of linguistics involved, if any of the other stories, and it sounds like it. Yes, The Secret History is very good then.
Okay.
So
this is great. I get a book rag.
Yes.
I get interviewed.
And that's what we really want from Shelf Conscious, which I need to practice saying because I'm like stumbling over the words a little bit, but just a chance to know people that are readers and particularly ones that work on books. So a couple of questions before we tie up is, first of all, what would you recommend to people who have already read less, like myself, that need a follow-up? And then after that, kind of go into some of the books that you're working on now.
Oh, well, there's a little bit of overlap there. Oh, thank you. Wow, thanks, Lauren.
Again, shout out to our producer, Lauren.
Lauren does everything in our social media, everything Little Brown social media, and she's an angel and a hero, and we cannot praise her enough. So one book that I thought of that I am working on now that actually comes out next week that I think is a great follow-up for Les for a couple of reasons is this book called Talent by Julia Lapidus. It's like one of the most anticipated books of 2019. Yes. I don't think you can have that though because I stole it from the editor. But I can send you a copy.
Also, this is a good chance to show you how I appraise books.
Yeah.
First cover, okay, don't carry too much weight to the cover. Then
you don't carry too much weight to the cover.
It's like a yay or nay thing for me. But truly, even more, if I never ever saw a cover of a book, that would be okay because I judge a book by its blurbs 100%. Because, for instance, I can see, okay, Alexandra Kleeman, I know that I love her writings. Oh my God, Rosecrans Baldwin. He wrote a book called Paris, I Love You, But You're Bringing Me Down.
Oh.
Have you read it?
No, but I know a song with that same title.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Is it Daft?
It's LCD Sound System.
Yes, LCD Sound System.
It's like New York, I Love You, but yeah.
You're Bringing Me Down.
Yeah.
I say I don't carry much weight to covers. The cover of that book, and obviously the title too.
Spectacular.
It's so good. It's a collection of essays / like linked personal stories about his time living in Paris. I am a huge Francophile, so it just checked a lot of boxes. So and it's hysterical. So is this funny?
Yeah, it's very, very funny, and it's got this same kind of tongue-in-cheek, witty humor as Les, and it's also it sneaks up on you in the ways that it makes you think about like your life and you know, how to value yourself and other people, and it's not so much love driven, but it's definitely fun and goes as fast as Les, and everybody is freaking out about this book in the office as well, so you know it's gonna be good. Like, that's also a good way to gauge books. Like, there was a book, this is sort of off topic, but there was a book called Circe. You may have heard of it. Gwyneth Paltrow just posted about it, and it was just such a hit in the office, and everybody loved it. And sure enough, like, it got this big like celebrity buzz, and it was like #1 on the New York Times list. And I mean, sometimes it happens that The Office loves a book and it just like it doesn't kick off like that. But yeah, I'm excited about this book because it's so beloved and funny, and I just think it's a great follow-up to Les. Talent comes out next week. Not to do like a really advertising plug.
We don't know when we're posting this yet, so can you say the date?
Talent. It comes out on January 22nd.
Which, in all likelihood, this will be posted after that.
Cool.
So
It's
you
out.
can buy it now at your local indie. Okay, so Talent.
And then Lauren astutely pointed out that if you're also looking for something fun and funny that's like a journey, pretty much any Maria Semple, but we picked up Where'd You Go, Bernadette, because a movie is being made about it, and I kind of hope, I hope and I don't hope that a movie is made about Les, but yeah, again, very funny, very like not I don't think as like deep thinky, but it'll definitely move you, and you probably have heard of it, like but she has her other book with the great
loved
cover.
it. It's Tomorrow Will Be Different.
Yeah, Today Will Be Different.
Today Will Be Different.
Yes, also
I actually, that book got less attention than Where'd You Go, Bernadette. Better? Part of me liked it better because it's darker.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say darker. It just has it has a lot of thinking.
Yeah,
that
it's
you
got a
can
little
do.
more weight, a little more heft.
If you haven't read Maria Semple before, this book is fantastic. But one of the things I really like about her is that she has an ability to write in a way that the protagonist is unlikable, but relatable and funny.
Yep.
So funny. I actually went up to Maria Semple at first of all, I never intended in a million years I would ever have the privilege of going to the National Book Awards, but I went this year. And after a few makers, I saw her on the stairs at the after party, and I accosted her and just said, Maria Semple, I will read anything you ever write. I am your biggest fan. I think you're brilliant. And she was lovely and receptive.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, she's really sweet.
She I definitely came across as a fangirl, and she was lovely about it.
Very happy to hear
yes,
it.
I hope so.
Like, it's always nice to hear that. But yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know. So my like reading preferences are always like a lot darker than what Les ended up being. So I was actually like, I loved it so much, but I was surprised that I ended up loving it because it wasn't, you know, the usual like grittiness of stuff.
It's sad, but not dark.
Right. So when I was thinking of comps, I was kind of like consulting everybody else, because I was like, the books that I was like comparing this to in my head were not books that I think would feel good as follow-ups.
That's fair.
But yeah, Secret History, Talent, Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and/or Today Will Be Different.
Calypso.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
So Calypso by David Sedaris is something that I read recently too. That was great because this, to me, I loved Me Talk Pretty One Day. Again, Francophile, but This was darker. This to me was dark. This to me was sad.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. No, but this was really, really funny too. Yeah. It's just like...
And the sense of humor in this actually reminded me of David's writing, like, a lot. Like,
this seemed more hopeful, though.
Yeah, more hopeful, but, like, the same kind of, like, snide, like, it was nicer, but it was, like, still a little bit snide, at times. But, yeah, I mean, this also has that same examination of, like, sort of midlife or mid to late life crisis that Les does.
Yes.
But, yeah, it's definitely darker.
Okay, so let's talk about some books you're working on now.
Okay, Talent is one of them. Right now I'm, like, buckling down on, I mean, there are books coming out at the end of the month and in early February that I'm working on, but I think some of the books that I'm, like, really gearing up on come out in March. So there's that one I mentioned earlier. It's called Real Queer America. It is this journalist's, like, journey through red states, basically to find, like, the flourishing, like, LGBTQ communities there. And it's just so it's so hopeful and so fun, and she's, like, very astute and very observant, but also, like, funny and recognizes, like, when things are silly. Like, they talk about eating a lot of, like, gross comfort food, like a big pile of cheese fries, but they also talk about going to a protest in Texas over, like, a bathroom bill, and it's great. I look, like, so excited about this book. And then there's a book, I'm working on a book called Shoot for the Moon, that's about the Apollo 11 mission, and the author is fantastic, and he's just been so fun to work with, and it's like an examination of basically all the people and, like, how high the stakes were for all of them, and for the states, like, at the time, to make sure that they could get on the moon first. And as someone who didn't live through that, reading about just, like, how important it was, and how, like, the country kind of knew, but not as keenly as these engineers, like, how big of a deal and how dangerous it was, like, how
much pressure.
Yeah, like,
political too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Like if Russia did it first, like, how is the government gonna kind of keep the trust of the American people and, like, feel like we're still doing well and still have the technological power.
And when does that publish?
That publishes in March, March 12th. Don't quote me on that. I don't know why I'm blanking on this.
A Tuesday in March, I assume.
A Tuesday in March.
A Tuesday in March. And so, final question. I know I said there were only two, but final question. How, if someone is a reader and they want ARCs, do you have any suggestions on what readers can do to get ARCs?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't want to promise that if you ask
and
us,
I recognize, first of all, ARCs are really rare.
Yeah.
Even working in publishing, you basically have to swap ARCs because they're, despite what you see on Instagram, which again is not real life, ARCs are gems.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, I was just talking to somebody in editorial, my friend in editorial, and about how we would have a stack of ARCs, like, on our desk that we're saving to, like, use for a special mailing, and how people just, like, come over and take one, you know, in various parts of, like, Little Brown and parts of Hachette. Right. Thank you, Lauren. Lauren just, like, gave me some tips, and she's exactly right. But, yeah, they're really precious.
So good.
But, yeah, I can't promise that you'll get one, but good ways to reach out. We post a lot of our e-galleys on NetGalley. We make sure, we want to make sure that if we're sending an ARC or an e-galley, we're going to get a review back. So if you like writing reviews, that'll up your chances of being able to get one, being able to have an early read. We do a lot of giveaways via Goodreads. Again, you're entering a sweepstakes. So there's no guarantee that you'll get one, but if you can like enter to win a bunch, and you could potentially win a ton of different books. We get a lot of direct outreach from people just to the Little Brown Generic inbox, like saying, here are my social platforms, I do a lot of reviews on Amazon, I would really like to read this book. I think you could just try doing that. We have an ambassador program, and you can contact Lauren about that via, is it DMing you on the Instagram? I'm sorry, I'm like, and
also follow, if you haven't followed Little Brown yet, please do. You guys do great stuff on your Instagram. Again, shout out to Lauren.
It's all like, Lauren really makes it amazing and keeps track of so many different books from like all of the marketers, and she's in touch with so many different people in the Bookstagrammer community.
Myself included.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Like, we're so glad that we, have this connection with you, and we get to like share all this cool stuff. And but definitely thank you for that plug.
Yes. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Ira. This has been, I learned something new.
Yeah, me too. I have a new book that I have to read now, and I am gonna start learning French. I think that's the takeaway. It's free. It's great.
Okay, so wait, can you plug that app one more time?
Duolingo. It's the little green owl.
That's cute.
We are not endorsed by Duolingo. But yeah, if you want to learn language for free during your lunch break, then do it.
Great. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you if you watched it all the way through. That's fantastic. And leave in the comment section any more questions that you want. Maybe we can do like a follow-up story or something like that. Or, we can always plug Little Brown's Instagram and, do something creative to get answers to your questions, maybe on the next episode.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks everyone, and thanks Ira.
Thank you
again.
So much.
And don't forget to read Less and all of these other amazing titles. Yes.
Oh, this is like a rare pre-Pulitzer seal copy. Cover it up.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.